All right. Is this thing on? Okay. Thank you, Jared. Okay. Well, welcome everyone. My name is Lydia Hedrick. I am the RISE chair. If you're not sure what RISE is, it's Oakmar's Young Professionals Network. So thank you for being here. It was our RISE advisory group that brought this event back. We did it last year and it was a hit, so we're excited to be able to do it again today. And we have some fresh faces on the panel, one returning person. He's a little bit harder to replace. We've got a lot of home builders to choose from. So we'll get to our panelists here in just a second. But I wanted to welcome you guys, welcome our panelists. Thank you for joining us today. We have two sponsors here. We have Linnell Long with First United Mortgage, and then Turner & Sons is our other sponsor, and we've got Jerry here sitting on the panel. So Linnell, if you and Chrissy want to talk and let us know what you all have to offer.
Thank you for that. Wow, first class sponsoring in a very long time. Can I stand here?
Uh-huh.
Oh, thank God. Okay. So, hello, I'm Linnell Long, First United Bank Mortgage, and I brought my cohort, Chrissy Wright. She is with First United Bank. So, when I need a land loan or if we need something that is a mortgage construction loan that's a little bit different than what I do, she's my go-to. But I wanted to talk about real quick what First United has to offer. We've got 1 and 2 time closed construction loans, and so if you've ever had a client who has done those, it's a really good process. When we do those, we obviously pre-qualify them at the very end of the process on the end product that they're going to use, and we can go up to 95% loan to value on those construction loans, which is a big deal because if you've got to go to the bank, it's 85% loan to value. So it's a little bit more generous, and we go and it's 95% loan to value of the appraised amount up to the conventional loan limit of $647,200, which is really good. We can roll in the land. It does require a 660 minimum credit score, and if the client has some things that maybe their credit is a little off, like I can send them to Chrissy, and Chrissy can 9 times out of 10 get them done as well. But what I wanted to talk about is what if your client is buying new construction and they don't need to get a construction loan? So what's the deal right now that we're doing? Long-term locks, right? So we have a very aggressive and very competitive long-term lock process. So if you want more information about that, get with me as well. We're going to hang out during the panel just in case if someone has a lending question about construction. But I wanted to let Chrissy talk about land real quick.
Yeah, so I can do the land loan. We can do 85% on a land loan, depending on your circumstance. If you're wanting to build in like 12 months, and we have an interest-only product, and then we can put you in if I do the construction loan, it's also a 12-month interest-only, and then I flip it to Linnell, and she does the permanent financing on it.
Absolutely. And our long-term locks we can go up to 9 months. So we can lock a conventional for 65 days without a fee and a government loan for 80 days. So anything past that, we can talk about that, but it's very generous. And so if your person is buying new construction and it's going to be done in 45 days, we don't need a long-term lock. But we do have options. But we're going to hang out. If you have questions about lending, construction, land, cute dogs, we'll be here. So thank you. Thank you, Lydia.
And I hope Linnell and Chrissy, you guys will stay along with everyone else. After we finish the panel discussion, we'll have Scoops ice cream here. Hopefully we can just briefly go outside, get our stuff from the truck, and then come back in where it's a little bit warmer to eat our ice cream. So make sure that you stay for that. So Jerry Captain with Turner & Sons is on our panel, so we're just going to start with him for a panel introduction. So panelists, we'll start with Jerry, and then maybe we'll get Steve and come back this way. And if you can just introduce yourself, like tell us your name, the company you work for, how long you've been in the industry, what your specialty is, and anything else you want to share with us. Oh, and if you guys don't mind using the mic, because this is being recorded, we know there's some people that weren't able to make it today, so we want to provide the recording for them. They won't get CE from it, but that way they have the information.
Perfect, thank you. How's that? Good? All right. Jerry Captain with Turner & Son Homes. I've been with the company for about 10 and a half years. Our company started in 1964, where we built houses in neighborhoods like most builders, built 20 or 30 of them at a time, then you sell them. About 8 years ago, we had a transition. That kind of came from back in 07, 08, 09, where we barely stayed in business. When you have a bunch of houses on the ground and nobody's buying anymore, and you're having to pay the loans each month, it gets kind of tough. So Tim is the son of Turner & Son. Ben Turner's his dad that started us in 1964. Had an idea. How do I, if possible, recession-proof our company as much as possible? So what he did is had the idea to build only custom homes. And about 8 years ago, maybe 8.5 to 7.5 to 8.5 years ago, we transitioned from, it was basically like doing a startup, starting a whole new company, because we started, now what we do, and we've done the transition, it's been a while now, but we build custom homes on land that either people own it or buying the land. In the last 8 years, we built almost 300 houses, just shy of 300 houses. We have not built the same house more than once in eight years. So everything is custom, whether it's a 1,000 square foot mother-in-law or father-in-law home that somebody needs a place for mom and dad. And a client of mine came to me a while back and he said, I love my mama and I love my wife, but they can't live in the same house. So we said, hey, I got a solution for you. So we're building a little mother-in-law house for her. It's maybe 1,100 square feet, 2 bed, 2 bath, 1 car garage. And then we build houses that are thousands of square feet, up to $1 million roughly. And again, that's what we've been doing for like the last 8 years. It's a lot of fun. It has its own challenges, but again, it's more fun than it is challenging. But the last couple of years, as you all know, that have been even more challenging just because of the stuff. But yeah, Turner & Son Homes, Jerry Captain. If you guys have any questions, I'm sure we're going to answer a bunch of stuff up here while we're talking. But if there's anything else, I'll be sticking around for a little bit after.
Okay, and we'll go down to Steve.
Good afternoon. Everybody good? My name is Steve Slater. I'm the market manager for Mill Creek Lumber here in Oklahoma City. That's Mill Creek Lumber. A lot of you may have seen Mill Creek Carpet and Tile around. That is our sister company. I have nothing to do with that. I don't have an eye for design at all. I started in the industry in 1976, actually 74 if you count the years in college. During the summer I was driving a truck for Cary Lumber Company last century. I started work for Mill Creek Lumber 10 years ago, last month. We supply building materials. Really and truly, 99% of our business is to home builders, new home construction. That's what we do. That's our focus. That's what we work on more than anything else. Have a lot of good customers up here, and had a lot of customers in the last panel too, for that matter. But we sell millwork, we sell windows, we sell fireplaces, we sell a lot of lumber. And I've got some people. I got a questionnaire, and I'll tell you all about lumber, what little I know, in about 10 seconds, in a little bit, I guess. Any questions?
Oh, I think she's got her own.
Oh, okay.
We have a couple mics for you guys to share. Yes. Cheryl, correct?
I'm Cheryl Lovelady, and I'm director of Positively Paseo. We go by Positively Paseo, even though we haven't done work there in about 30 years, because our real name is so long, it's ridiculous. And really, it speaks to what we do. We're a community housing development organization, which is a CHUD designation. A HUD designation. There are 3 CHODOs in Oklahoma City. 2 of them are active, and I'm one of them, and close friends with the other. But we build affordable housing. When you say that, people's faces screw up, and they think of something horrible. We actually build to federal standards. They're the best quality house that you can find around, other than maybe my new friend here next to me or my old friend at Idle Homes. But we build a very, very high quality house. And in fact, I've got 3 under construction in this neighborhood that we're sitting in. So we have a little flyer, and it's really crappy. I just printed it on my black and white printer, and I apologize. And I did it. I mean, I can't point to staff or anything, but I was like, I should bring something. But it is the 3 homes that we have under construction. Qualified buyers get $15,000 in down payment assistance, which is the whole point. Our mission is not to build houses. Our mission is not to make money on houses. My board laughs almost every month and says, how much did we lose on this one? So I have a wonderful job, and I get to lose money on houses. It's great because I'm good at it. But yeah, you got to find your lane. At this age, you just got to find your lane and stay in it. But it's a wonderful, wonderful thing. We are neighborhood developers. So we started in the Paseo when it was blight. It's now a historic preservation district. We went to Class and Tenpin. That was blight. It's now, the last home I sold, I built one market rate just to keep me in my opulent lifestyle at the nonprofit, that sold in one day for, I think, $350,000, which was $30,000 over asking. So we know we're done. We know we're done when the neighborhood has reached that level of success. So we've done this in every neighborhood. We work with the city. The city is reinvesting in Capitol View. They pick 3 neighborhoods at a time, and we're just happy as all get out to go along with a city that's investing in sidewalks and streets and parks and lighting. And we do some infill, get some home ownership up, and then the for-profit guys can look at this neighborhood and say, yeah, I can make some money. And they start building houses, and before you know it, the neighborhood's tipped. And so that's what we do. I didn't build 300 houses in 2 years or whatever. We won't, but we are flipping neighborhoods, and it's just a wonderful lane to be in.
Okay. So the one that sold for $350, did you mess up and make a profit on that one?
Yes.
We're a for-profit organization. Yeah. I'm Steve Shoemaker. I'm the president of Ideal Homes, and the company's been in business for 30 years. I've been with the company 18 of those years. It's been wonderful 18 years of my life. We have 130 employees. We'll close around 750 homes this year in 15 neighborhoods around Oklahoma City, 2 in Stillwater. We have 2 neighborhoods in the Tulsa area that are bought, not closed. And so we'll be entering into that market next year in Bixby and Glenpool. And half of our home buyers are first-time home buyers. So our square footage ranges from 1,000 square feet. We actually have a plan that's 997 square feet. The first time we built it in Stillwater, the appraisal said it was functionally obsolete. We're like, what does that even mean? It's a house. It's got 3 bedrooms and a bathroom and a garage. But so we built from 1,000 square feet all the way up to 3,500. But our bread and butter is in that first-time home buyer, first-time move-up range. And Ideal Homes claim to fame. Early on, we were the first builder to build Energy Star homes at an affordable level in the United States. Back in 1998, we built the first LEED certified home in America. So we kind of have this long history of energy efficiency that's been a big part of our story, and we try to have that conversation with home buyers about when you buy a house, a lot of people think about the mortgage, but there's a total cost of ownership that comes into play with the house. And so that's been a big part of our story, and the codes and regulations have caught up in Oklahoma, which is really exciting on the energy efficiency front. But we've been doing this a long time and had lots of different experiences with lots of different home buyers and municipalities, so look forward to just sharing anything we can today with you all.
My name is Monique Short with Monarch. We have been in business for 6 years. I am one of the owners. My partner is Erica Emery. We do infill development locally in Oklahoma City, and then we also do custom home building as well. So looking forward to sharing and answering questions that you guys have today.
And Monique, I saw the bio posted in the RISE event group, and we are both PC North Panthers alums, so. That was exciting. I also taught there, so I think it's cool to have graduated and been a teacher. Okay, so we've got some questions that our RISE advisory group came up, so we'll start with those. But audience members, if you have questions, please be working on those because I'm going to turn it over to you guys shortly because we want it to be interactive. So you guys can answer this in any order you want. We don't need everybody to answer, but everyone is welcome to answer. So first off, how has COVID affected your business? All right.
We grew.
Okay, that's good.
Same.
Well, same. I'll tell you, just like a lot of businesses, when COVID hit in that spring of 2020, there's like this moment of pause that everybody had, like what exactly is going to happen? You know, are people going to buy houses? And the housing data wasn't changing. You know, the demographics and the demand wasn't changing, and so it was really kind of an interesting time. But I think one thing business-wise that changed a lot is we kind of took for granted how tech-savvy our buyers are, especially in an older demographic. Like we became really concerned that a lot of the things that younger buyers were used to, buying a house online, but the boomer generation had adapted to that so quickly that we didn't see a drop off at all. We had people going through the entire process, buying a house sight unseen. And so I think the one thing that we're going to watch in our industry for sure is the work from home dynamic, which was already a fire that was there and COVID poured gasoline on it. And so it remains to be seen. There are a lot of experts talking about working from home, how that's going to impact what kind of homes people are looking for, the layout of their home. Is everybody going to want 2 studies? So we're watching that really closely, but people had already started to work remotely a lot, and now we have neighborhoods where we have a majority of the households where at least one person works from home. So that's a big impact for sure.
Yeah, I'll pile on that. I always prided myself on building a flexible home. It was always my name, you know, my name for it was flexibility. We build a 2-bedroom, 2-bath, and if I'm the goddess of anything, it's the 1,200 square foot, you know, 2-bedroom, 2-bath, because it's a flexible home. You can have roommates live there. You can have, you know, a child come home. You can have, you know, a parent that needs help. If you've got 2 full bedrooms, 2 full baths, it makes it extremely flexible. I'm also goddess of finding every square inch and making use of it. So I will take a floor plan and just, you know, go over it and over and over it. But with our architect this last year, she said, you know, I found if we moved this a little bit, I found about, you know, a little 7x7 area by the bedrooms. And I said, that's fantastic. So we've got those in 2 of the houses that we're building that we'll build a little study in or just a little built-in nook for a kid that's doing homework or for people that are working from home. So even in a small space, you don't have to be on the kitchen table. You know, you've got some place to kind of put that part of your life. So I think that's been part of the change of COVID is just, you know, we all know that work is not going to go back to what it was. I haven't gone back to the office, and I have a nice one, but I just kind of like being at home, and I get more done, and it's more flexible. So we're trying to keep that in consideration as well.
One of the things when you stay at home a lot more, like everyone was, is all the things that pissed you off about your house really started to piss you off, right? Because you're in it all the time. And so if there was a noise issue between your children's bedroom and yours, or my wife's a PA for a rheumatologist, and I remember I was working out of a desk in our bedroom, and she was literally in our master closet, like doing telemedicine with people. And I was like, okay, this is absurd, okay? So the things about your home that kind of bugged you before, and so we saw a lot of that, people looking at new construction because they had a specific thing that was really bothering them. And so people are a lot more aware about their space, I think, after COVID and just being stuck at home.
Steve, were you going to say something?
Our business did not grow, it exploded. We had all record sales, both in volume and in sales dollars in the last couple of years. But as these guys can attest even more than I can, the COVID totally, and you all know it too, disrupted the supply chain. And we're still fighting that today. It's actually as hard today or harder than we have been since it started. And you guys read the papers, you Google up stuff, you know how hard it's been, but it has really made our lives difficult to keep our customers supplied with product at any price, any way we can get our hands on it. I have spent, we have a credit card, company credit card. I have 3 times maxed it out buying zip tape, which you guys may not know, but if you see a zip wall, which is a green board on the side of a new construction home, I could buy it online, had to pay about 10% more, but I could buy it online when I could not get it from the supplier. And I think I spent a total of $90,000, 3 $30,000 purchases on my credit card to get product for my customers to keep going. And that's just an example that comes to mind. We're doing it every day. What happened, Steve brought it up a little bit, when we first figured out there was COVID, it was real, at the Thunder game back in March of whenever that was, 20, I guess, we all stopped to say, what do we do now? We didn't know if we were going to have a job tomorrow, if there was going to be an economy tomorrow. We didn't know anything. But so did our manufacturers. They stopped. And in that 90 days it took them to figure out that life data had not changed. There were people still needed homes. They were so far behind, they've never been able to catch up. And several of them have not caught up yet, and we don't see that they're going to catch up for another year or two. It's that severe. So business has been great, but it's been the toughest great 2 years I've had in my entire life.
Okay, I like that. We think of COVID and sometimes we feel negative, but I'm glad that there was positive to come out of it too. I mean, we've seen that with our business, that for the ones of us that can get clients, get listings, it's busy out there. So what kind of price increases have you seen in the last 2 years? So for the builders, just for example, like the cost of your most popular floor plan or home size in early 2020 compared to now?
I think that at first we were worried about Mill Creek and our lumber. But unfortunately, in the last 12 months, it's been every other line item. So ductwork you can't get, even getting electrical outlet covers when you're trying to close the house up. So now it's every other line item in our budget has been affected. And on top of that, since we have been so busy, we have a labor shortage, and so labor has also gone up. So I think before, when we were only dealing with lumber shortage and increase in price, some of those things were still manageable, but now almost all of our line items in our budget, we're seeing a significant increase in still.
Yeah, it's been like whack-a-mole at the fair on the price increases, because there was lumber, which was a big one, but it's moved around a lot. So I asked our VP of estimating today, and a 2,000 square foot home, one of our popular floor plans, is $50,000 more today than it was 3 years ago. So, I mentioned half our buyers are first-time home buyers. Well, guess what they're not bringing with them to buy their first home is a bunch of equity from the sale of their home, and so that has a real impact. But the pricing has been all over the place. Lumber, one day it's lumber, the next day it'll be attic access stairs. I don't know if you dealt with that. Like just and inspectors don't carry ladders with them. And if you don't have access stairs in the attic, they can't inspect it. So there's weird little things like that have moved around. And it stabilized in some areas, and then it changes. And so you just got to stay on top of it all the time. But it's you all have experienced, there's real price appreciation happening out there, and it's not just on the houses, it's on the land as well.
We've seen things almost double, and it's a perfect storm of really a workforce issue and the supply chain and inflation. I mean, it's all of those things combined. When you look at our licensed trades, any of you, they're in their 60s. They can't get apprentices. They don't. We've raised a generation, I think, that thinks that they're supposed to sit behind a laptop in a coffee shop, and that's success. And we can't get apprentices. So we're at the mercy. We're little, so we can't command that a plumber show up on Tuesday. We can call and beg, and the plumber will say, "I will be there on this day." And we're also at the mercy of their prices. And so it's been a real challenge for us to keep a home affordable, even with a subsidy from HUD. It's just outrageous. I've waited 3 months on a mason I was told I was going to have a hard time with brick. We got our brick in no time, and it sat there 3 months waiting on a mason to show up. So it's a real workforce issue, and as we all know, time is money, just even for us. The longer things take, and he got started the afternoon before it started raining. So the brick is still sitting there. It's now in little. I drove by just a minute ago in little rivers of water. So hopefully he comes back. But yeah, it's a perfect storm of everything. It's not just COVID. It's not just supply chain. It's not just inflation. It's not just workforce. It's all of those things, in my opinion, combined.
Yeah, I would agree with everything you guys said. We've seen our house that we use as a model just on paper, because we don't build the same house more than once. So we needed something as a gauge. So about every 3 or 4 months, we go back and we look at this house and everything it takes to build this one house. So it's apples to apples. And we've seen a 2,500 square foot 3-bed house with 2.5 bath and an office and a 3-car garage go from low 300s to mid 400s to build. And part of that too is my business partner Tim Turner. He is he is in a group of builders. I think there's 10 or 12 of them, and they all live in different states. One's in Florida, one's up by New York, one's in Montana, and one's in Cali, one's in Washington. They're all in different places. So they get together twice a year and have a powwow about what's happening in their businesses and the different challenges and things like that. Well, they had an economist come in to speak to their group just recently, and one of the main questions was what is going on across the country in terms of the economical impact of home building, and because we're all new construction. He said, look, he goes, I've done a lot of homework on this. He said, Tim, unfortunately, Oklahoma, you guys have been spoiled for decades on the price of homes have been lower than almost anywhere else. And the cost to build has been lower than almost anywhere else. And the way he described it was like a bubble that Oklahoma lived in that for one reason or another wasn't impacted by the cost of goods increasing as significantly as other places. And in the last 18 months, maybe 24, but it's been in the last 2 years, that protective bubble that it's gone away. So what we've seen is the cost of goods in Oklahoma has significantly increased and outpaced anywhere else in the country. So that's why we're seeing that the houses go from rise so quickly in cost to build, and then as that happens in previous home sales, the previous home sales were being outrun by the cost to build pretty significantly, and now a lot of the comps have kind of caught up, and now it's pretty much leveled out in terms of previous older homes and then the new construction homes. But I thought it was really interesting about what the economist said about Oklahoma and how we were kind of in a protective bubble for a long, long time, and then now that's gone. So in terms of the entire country, we have seen the significant, the most increase in percentage-wise of anywhere else in the country. And I thought that was pretty interesting hearing that.
I can tell you, but you talk what you've already said.
Okay. So I was curious, what alterations or cuts are you seeing your buyers make in order to stay within budget? That if they aren't able to pay an overage, are they making cuts somewhere else?
We as a company, which most people think it's crazy, and sometimes we think it is too, that we're a fixed cost builder. So once we do so much homework in the beginning on people's budgets, what they want, and have weeks of meetings before we even sign a contract. So that way when we sign the contract, we've done our due diligence to make sure that they're not going to go over. But you know what, if they go to the lighting or appliance store or the flooring store, for example, I use a flooring store a lot. First of all, we have somebody that goes with them to try to kind of keep them in budget, to keep them corralled. But if they see, and I use this one, imported marble from Italy that they want on the floor, and who knows, it's $90 a square foot, maybe, I guess, I don't know. and they just want it, but they're happy to write the check, we're not gonna tell them no. But we're gonna have a conversation at the time they pick it and say, look, we budgeted X amount per square foot for your tile. This is that much more. It's gonna be this much as a total. But a lot of times people are going and looking for stuff that is very similar to what they want at a less of a cost when it comes to lighting and flooring and a lot of those texture items. But when it comes to construction, we cut zero corners. We build like you were saying about your homes, we build a fantastic quality home with energy efficiency and all the things that you would want in a home. But when it comes to the textures of what it looks like when it's finished, lights and appliances and things like that, those are really on the client. But we have a really good upfront contract, is what I call it. It's just a conversation really about what things really cost and what they cost in today's dollars, not a year or two ago.
I would agree with that. I think it's difficult to find savings because we come from the same philosophy. The basis of your house, we're going to stick with those things because they're the tenets that we live by. So there are some places where you can try to save money, whether it's you decided to do carpet in some spaces instead of hardwoods throughout. But I think it is more of having the conversation with people ahead of time, because they will ask you, well, what can we cut? Well, we can't change your insulation because that's not okay. We don't want to change your windows because we want to make sure you're all closed in, right? So I think it's more on the educational side at the beginning when you are meeting with people, of setting the right expectation of where they will land, which has become more and more difficult to quote and try to have that conversation early, but letting them know what to expect and where they need to be.
In the crazy economy of nonprofits, we've actually pivoted another direction, and that is building a more sustainable home and a more energy efficient home, which saves our clients for the long term. So we're doing a pocket neighborhood on the west side of the state capitol. It's at 26th and Walnut, and we have all probably in this room driven by this old blonde brick house that's been there and been boarded up for 30 years. It was built in 1911. We bought that and the 2.5 acres that it sits on, and we're doing a 22-lot, small lot development surrounding that house. Got the house on the National Register. But all of those homes are going to be insulated concrete forms. What happened during COVID is lumber got so expensive that ICF became feasible. Where before it was going to be way too much money for an organization like us to afford. So, we've got 9-inch thick concrete walls, which means that my home buyer, I say, hey, congratulations, Jessica Thompson, your home. Yeah, I know you came in a little late, and all of that, so you deserve the call out. But congratulations, you're going to have 65% energy savings over the life of your home. And, all of us are feeling that. All of us are feeling the energy cost rising and all that sort of thing. So we put fortified roofs in all of our homes. We're, doing ICF. Those kinds of things cost more money for us. We're able to take the hit a little bit, better than some of the for-profit guys. But man, to give somebody a value like that is an amazing thing.
So I maybe an outlier here, but where I've seen people, or we've seen people make trade-offs, has been on the size of their home. People have been unwilling to make trade-offs and it goes back to, you've been stuck in your home, what you want in your home, right? And so we have found that people have been unwilling to make trade-offs on the interior of their home, and have been willing to live in a home that may be 100, 200 square feet smaller than they were anticipating to get what they want in the home. And we've seen people being willing to there's some things people won't make trade-offs on, where the home is at, and we're seeing more and more what's in the home. But they'd be willing to move around on the size of their home to fit it within a budget to get what they want in the home.
Okay.
Especially older people.
Steve, did you have anything?
This is a young
to add?
professionals group, right? So there's no old people in here, right?
Well, but young professionals, but open to everyone. No one's excluded.
Young at heart.
Yes. Okay. I feel like this is a long shot, but are incentives still being offered? If you use a preferred lender?
buyers?
Oh, to the buyer from our vendors?
To the buyers.
We got $15,000.
Yes.
I would say when we built spec homes, some of our lenders would have some incentives. But we as a company, I mean, sometimes we would throw in a fence or, garage door openers if the house didn't have it, or blinds or some things like that. But since we got out of spec homes, we just put in the house what the clients want, and we don't put anything in there that they don't want that would cost them money. Like some people going to the lumber, this is another joke I say, I'm like I can't take out every other 2x4 to save you money. But what I can do is we can look at other stuff.
No, we're not offering any incentives right now.
So I figured, long shot. But hey, if you don't ask, the answer is no, right? Okay. Are you seeing more investor buyers than pre-COVID?
Yes. I think that the perfect storm that we talked about, Oklahoma being affordable for so long, we have a lot of people from outside of the state that are investing in our area. Even people that are local have figured out that we're still more affordable than other parts of the country. And so we've seen a large influx of people that are buying a second or a third home to have as a rental or an Airbnb property. And so it's been interesting, and they have cash, and so they're beating out some of our buyers that we would target in the past that need to have 20% down or have to have conventional financing and things of that nature. So I think that part for us, because we have always tried to make sure that even on our spec side that we try to keep them as affordable as possible when we can, has been unfortunate sometimes when you see the face of people that actually need a home to live in, that they're losing out to investors.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen a lot more interest from investors. It reminds me of pre-recession back in the early 2000s. The interest, we don't sell directly to investors. We just have a policy against it. And so, but the interest that we get, and the people, when we tell them that try to sidetrack us and say, I'm buying it for my daughter, we get a lot more of that. We're sniffing out 2 of those deals a month, but there is interest. And in the single family rental market, we have a sister company that has an entire single family rental neighborhood in Mustang. It's wildly popular. We're finding more and more people, especially younger buyers, that need to rent, are more and more preferring to rent in a neighborhood with a home with a yard, but the same amenities instead of an apartment. And oftentimes that payment is around the same. And so we're seeing a rise in the single family neighborhoods nationwide, but in Oklahoma City especially. But there is a lot more. And I think a lot of people real estate is a hedge against inflation. So there's a lot of theories flying around of why all these investors are buying. Is BlackRock trying to buy all the houses in America? You hear all this stuff, and I don't know the truth of all of it, but I don't think it's an unhealthy interest right now. I think there's a lot of weird things happening in the economy, and there's people trying to figure out where they can put their money, where it's a safe place to put it, and real estate has been historically safe. But there's a lot more investors sniffing around.
It doesn't impact us. We have to have qualified buyers for our homes, but I will say on my private side, because one thing about working for a nonprofit, you have to have a private side to, keep the bills paid. But my lavish lifestyle in check here. But I've got some investment homes that my business partner and I have done and fixed up and rent, just to have a retirement. And I'm getting at least a call a day, sometimes 2 or 3. They see where we've paid kind of a low price for this thing when we did, and we paid, lots of our lives just getting it fixed up and put into rental. But they're thinking they can pick them off, and so I'm really growing weary of the relentless. It's getting relentless on the calls, the texts, the emails about I want to buy your home, I want to buy your home. So it's out there, and it is going to push some qualified buyers out. Oh, thank you. Helpful. Helpful, thank you.
The first thing they can tell you is that I'm a licensed real estate agent, and it's like, click. I'm like, where'd you go? Right, they won't tell you. Because they don't want to pay you. Yeah, well, they know you know what you're talking about. They can't really walk you right.
I would say that the 30 to 35 houses a year that we build are specifically for people that they're going to live in. I don't know that I've built a house that I can remember that somebody just built it and then outside of back years ago when we built specs. I mean, we did have a lot of investors back then that would people that lived in Washington, Oregon, California would buy them and then they'd put them into a rental market or a rental pool with a property management company, and then we would see that then. But since we started building customs on land, we haven't really seen that. I mean, even though there are people that are moving from out of state, they are moving from all over the place, honestly, and then they're building a custom home. And by the way, we build within about an hour of Oklahoma City, so a lot of them want acreages and things like that, and they're selling their houses in Washington and California for millions of dollars, and they move here, they pay cash for a house, buy 2 cars, a boat, RV, and everything, and still have money in the bank. It's crazy, but we haven't actually seen that because of our business model.
I can't really respond to these folks on the ground experience with that, but I will tell you that nationally, about 6% of new homes built 2 years ago were built to rent, and that number's already up to about 8.5. It's really, and as one of you said, we see more of it in Oklahoma City, I think, than maybe anywhere else. A lot of our business today is for duplexes and homes built specifically to rent, and it appears right now it's getting more so that way. I know you guys don't want to hear that, but it's reality. You are realtors, aren't you?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't think you did.
Well, housing opportunities are good, even if it's not necessarily us selling them. We want people to have options. So, audience, what questions do you all have? Anybody? Thank you, Colin.
How are interest rates going to affect prices of your homes? Because they're already kind of going up.
Yes, about interest rates.
Yeah, interest rates for us, it's not going to affect our client. Just like when I have a client that comes to me without a realtor, that doesn't affect the price of their home either. If they come with a realtor, it still doesn't price affect their home. We just take the 3% of our marketing budget, which paying realtors is our marketing budget, because like 9 out of 10 houses we build were a referral from a realtor. So we just have money set aside, and then that's where we pay our realtors. But the interest rates, they won't affect us as a company one way or another.
So if interest rates went up to say 7%, you're saying that would not affect your construction business, the clientele that are looking at your homes?
It may affect how many homes we build, because maybe less people will actually build a custom home, but it's not going to affect. Like, okay, for example, we just hired over the last year and a half. Our cost to build has increased by a lot for each one individual home. What we made on it a year and a half or 2 years ago, we don't make $1 more. We've left our profit where it is without increasing our margins. We just hired 4 new people without increasing our margins on houses. But we needed people to help make sure our clients were as happy as we can possibly make it. We saw places where hiring some people would help. But so I guess to answer your question, I guess I kind of already did by saying we may build less houses, but we're not going to stop building houses.
Well, we've got another question, but did anybody else on the panel want to answer the interest rate?
Well, the answer is yes, it impacts it. For us at least, we see, especially again, half our buyers being first-time home buyers. I was at a conference, a Builder 100 conference, California, a couple of weeks ago, and one of the chief economists for the NAHB talked about one point interest rates going up is like the equivalent of a 13% price increase on a house. So what we're seeing again is people. It's really impacting people that wrote a contract with us, have had supply chain delays, have been stuck in the building cycle. And now there's a lot of uncertainty. The interest rates have gone up 2% or 1.5% since they bought their house. And so it's increased a lot of anxiety for our home buyers that are in the building process. So we've had to really double down on our communication with them, get with their lenders, looking at lock opportunities. So it has a big impact, but the biggest impact it has is just the uncertainty it gives home buyers. And I'm sure you all are experiencing that too, when they don't know, do I need to be urgent and hurry up? Is it going to go up another %? Do I need to wait it out? There's so many people trying to time the market right now. They're trying to time it. And I've only been doing this 18 years, but you can't time it. You know, there are people trying to play lumber futures that, don't work, and then they're like, well, I bet lumber goes down 20% next year, and you're like, well, will it? We don't know. And so it's where the interest rates are really hitting is the uncertainty that it impacts. And then we're just seeing people that are moving down in size of their home to get that monthly payment in line where they need it to be. So yeah, it has an impact, but the consumer confidence piece is the one that's hard to gauge. Just people are uptight about it. I don't blame them. I'm building a house right now. I'm uptight about it.
Linnell, did you have anything on interest rates that you wanted to share?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. And I see the hands. I'll get to you guys. We've got three.
What I'm finding right now is we really focus on budget. Because there's nothing we can do about rates, right? They're just gonna go up, and we just make sure that people are gonna buy homes. They're still buying them, y'all know.
Yeah, they are.
If it fits in their budget, they're gonna buy it. So what we're doing is we're seeing a lot more people buy down the rate. Now, I've seen rates level off this week. So rates have leveled off about 1/4 to 3/8, which is really good. But people are looking at, okay, if I buy down the rate, or if I do a long-term lock, I can write that off on my Schedule A, because those are points along with your primary residence, your mortgage interest that you pay. So instead of taking standard deduction, so people are looking ahead, especially, and these are people that are building homes, okay? So, it's a give and take. We just gotta make sure that we don't undercut what we think the rate's gonna be by the time they go under contract. So, okay, thank you.
Well, what I hate, and I'm on the other end of the spectrum here, is that it's the first-time home buyer. We sell our homes to teachers, to firefighters, to cops, to people getting their first job out of college. And we're in a horrible situation that if they qualify, income-wise, because there's a limit, it's on the little flyer I put back there, they don't make enough to get the mortgage, and that's not ever happened before. And so that's where I worry about it. The high-end buyers they're going to be okay, but the interest rates are really going to impact the first-time home buyer. It's the millennials that still have a student loan. It is that couple that they're both school teachers. That's where it's really gonna smack in the face.
Yeah. Okay, we had a first question in the back.
Yeah, do you think that as the supply chain issues resolve themselves over the next year or 2 years, that your costs will go down and that will be reflected onto potential buyers? Because as those building costs go up, a lot of Oklahoma's average income people are being priced out. Will it adjust, or will it just level out?
It will adjust. It will adjust. One thing I've learned in my career, it's always a cycle, and these guys have been doing it long enough to see the same thing. We've seen price reductions the last couple of months. It was about 10% last month, and I think it'll be about 5 or 10% this month. We'll set, in fact, I'm going to a pricing meeting in 30 minutes, an hour, but.
Can we quote you on that? Can we quote you on that?
Y'all want to come help me?
Yeah.
I'll explain to you how it really works. But,
You're not gonna see it. That's how it really works.
he will see it, I promise. And then maybe you guys won't.
And that's really the question.
Well-
If it does resolve, how far will that trickle? Will we ever see a point when buyers that are an income level down from the ones that can afford it now will be back in this market? Because the cost of
I'm afraid lumber, raw commodity lumber will come down quite a bit, and it'll go back up quite a bit. The mills have made a fortune the last 2 years. We haven't, you don't believe it, but we haven't, but the mills have made a fortunes in the last couple of years. That will normalized at some point in time. What I'm concerned that won't happen is that all of the price increases we've seen on doors and millwork and windows and all of this other stuff, I don't think we'll ever see reductions in that stuff. Once Masonite Corporation gets to be able to sell a door for $100 a door instead of 50, they're not going to back out. So, to some extent, that's never going to go away, unless we have another great recession. Then it might, but none of us want that anyway. So, I think we will see some improvement on overall cost. Do we think labor will go back down? And it's been up 20% probably for you guys, at least. We've had to raise our wages 20% in the last two years. And I think most of you, well, most of y'all have a way to make your money, but if you're making a dollar, whatever it is an hour, once you give a guy a dollar raise, you can't ever take it back. So that part, fuel, we're seeing projections, diesel's gonna be $9 a gallon. How much do you think that adds to the cost of your truckload of lumber that comes in? It's a huge amount. It's already a huge amount. We're used to doing it for 2.5 or 3, and it's $5.50 today. I can't afford to take that. He's got to pay that. He's got to pay that, and eventually the homeowner has to pay it. It's not going away. Fuel will change too. We all know how that is. But I think you know what I'm trying to say.
I think we had some more answers.
Well, I got a C in economics, okay? So and it was probably generous, to tell you the
most of
truth.
us probably did
It's
too,
probably
so.
generous.
Right there.
There's a lot of things that impact it, that impact pricing. But is pricing going to go down when material supply chain stuff gets leveled off? Probably not. But I heard somebody say recently, everybody keeps saying, when will pricing level off? Well, pricing's never been level. It's been going like this, and it'll probably start going like this. It won't keep this giant rise. But he hit on something, and that is like the wages haven't caught up with inflation, right? And so as we hire people on and pay them a higher wage, I mean, the stuff got more expensive before people got more money in their pocket. And so some of that will level out. But again, people trying to time the market, we even have people at our own company that work for us that are thinking about buying a house, and they're like, well, I think I might wait for pricing to go down. We're like, no, it's if it goes down, we're in a major recession that's driven by housing like 08. We're going to be in a recession the next year. I think everybody agrees that at some point, but it's not going to be like last time where it was driven by funky mortgages and housing itself. There's still a tremendous amount of demand, and there's low supply, and that's going to keep prices at their level.
We are still 5 million houses behind in the United States. That has not changed, at least that.
And our supply chain hasn't opened back up. And I think that's one of the things that a lot of people may have a misunderstanding of, that some of the things that we were suffering through at the beginning of COVID, now that we're out in public and we're able to gather, they have a misinterpretation that means supply chain is also loosened up. But around the world, we still have some heavy supply chain issues, and our world is integrated now, right? So we can't get some of those things just from the United States because we're open. China's still locked down, we still have a war in Ukraine, and some of those items that we take for granted, like fuel, right, are the things that are now driving our price increases. We're getting fuel surcharges from our suppliers every other week, that they were this in April, and they're going to be this in May, they're going to be this in June, right? So I think the misconception of people thinking that supply chain is opening back up, is causing some people to think that pricing is going to come back down. But when you go to the grocery store, there's still empty shelves, right? That's still affecting us in the same way, if not greater. And again, labor, I think we still have a long way to go for labor to catch up with inflation and where it's going. And so even if some of those things do come back down, that's an actual material item, we're still going to see a significant increase going on in labor to come.
Were you all able to hear Monique okay? I don't know that the mic was working.
Have you all noticed how people blame supply chain for everything, though, now? It's kind of funny. Like at Sonic, if you can't get a gift card, they're like, it's supply chain. It's like, is it? Is that just the thing everybody says?
Yeah. Yeah, just to piggyback on what they were saying, we actually we were seeing lumber come down, like he was saying, and we were like, oh man, we were getting excited thinking we were gonna be able to start giving better pricing on houses, and then as it came down, all these other materials continue to rise, and then in the last probably 45 or 60 days, our electrician came to us and said, hey, you need to pay me 20% more. I'm going to go somewhere else. And he's a trade. And so all of our trades are coming and saying, hey, I need to pay, because they have to drive, so they have to pay the higher gas prices and everything else. So it just trickles down to everybody. So where we were going to save money, that just got erased by all this other stuff.
Okay. We've had a question over here for a while.
We're talking about labor and materials going up. What's the price of land percentage going up? Because every time you turn around,
All right.
you know, I buy land and I'm like, well, if he wants to buy it from me, that's great, you know, pay twice what it's worth. I mean, what is your percentage you're seeing there? Because I noticed all the larger home builders are having to go around the interstate to buy land because it's less expensive, say, than maybe in the metro area. So what's that percentage? I mean, that's got to be passed down to the new buyer.
So the question was, we know supplies have gone up, but has the cost of land gone up as well?
I knew this question was going to come up, so I wrote this down. Okay, because this blue. So it's gone up significantly. I mean, land is one of the largest drivers of the cost of housing, right? And so to your point, yes, you're seeing more. There's a lot tied up in it, but yeah, you're seeing more and more developers and builders going out to Tuttle, Hara, Newcastle, Blanchard, you know, more fringe areas outside the metro where land is more affordable, it's readily available, and there is a market. I mean, from Blanchard to, you know, downtown Oklahoma City it's like 30 minutes. My drive from Edmond to Norman is further than it is from Blanchard to downtown Oklahoma City every day. So you're seeing that, but the cost of land is going up, and it's also, when we're in a good market, people make decisions that make you wonder. Like, we've passed on some pieces of land that other people have bought, and we've been like, we just could not figure out how we could make that work and be profitable. But they bought it, and so we're going to kind of wait and see, because there's a little bit of hubris right now, I think, in the land buying arena. You know, we're all geniuses right now. Like, every deal we've made in the last 3 years, we have looked like absolute geniuses, you know, like land acquisition, because we've been in a really heady market. So I do think when we get in a more normalized market, we're going to see some of the crazy land acquisition we've seen come back to haunt a little bit, some areas. But what I wrote down was in a primary in North Oklahoma City, 5 years ago, we bought a farm for $45,000 an acre. And we just bid on a new one this week for $72,000 an acre, and we got outbid $87,000 an acre. So Valencia, the neighborhood I live in, I've lived in for 15 years. When Ideal Homes bought that farm 18 years ago, it was $12,000 an acre. So you can see those land prices going up, and 40% of the permits in Oklahoma City are from 4 home builders. And so really who's getting really hit hard on land has been smaller builders that rely on, you know, taking down lots. I mean, finding lots, there's nobody looking to sell 10 lots to somebody in one of their neighborhoods. They're looking to sell the whole thing, right? We also have some builders entering the market that are national publicly traded builders that are willing to pay an absolute premium for some land just to get a foothold in the market. And so I'm glad you asked about land. It's a big driver. It's not something that a lot of people think about, but it's a big driver on the pricing, and we're going to continue to see land prices go up until things kind of level out a little bit, and then I think there'll be a little bit of blood in the water on some land down the road. I know that's probably a gruesome analogy, but some people that are making some land acquisition during a heady market that need to unload it in the next 5 years.
Just a one quote my grandma, who always said, you know, buy land because God's not making any more of it, you know, is still true. But I deal with infill. She deals with infill. The buy and hold guys out there, there needs to be policy changes on this kind of situation as well. So maybe I'm going to sound like some liberal nut, but we have neighborhoods that have declined, and it's solely because of people, buying lots for, the tax, the price of the tax bill or whatever, holding on to them for 30 years. This neighborhood that we're sitting in is one of those neighborhoods. And so, I lost out on buying a lot for $15,000 and offered full price, where 2 or 3 years ago I could buy a lot for $7,500. But that's another thing. If people buy, there ought to be a timestamp on developing on that lot or giving it up. And maybe that's anti-American, but it's really causing a huge impact on our our neighborhoods within Oklahoma City.
Anybody else for the land question?
So going to what you were saying, Cheryl, like highest and best use of the land, right? That's not the highest and best use of the land, let's be honest.
It's blight.
Right. So you do infill development, right? And the vacant lots have gone up in price just within the city. So you mentioned pocket neighborhoods. And I don't know if everyone knows what a pocket neighborhood is in this room. Maybe you can talk about that and talk about how density can kind of subsidize that high cost of land.
Absolutely, we're excited about the one that we're doing on the west side of the Capitol. In traditional neighborhoods or in even historic neighborhoods, I live in Lincoln Terrace. I live in a lot that's 65 feet wide and has a 35-foot setback, and I spend no time in the front yard. I pay somebody to mow it. I spend my time in the backyard. So what we've done with a pocket neighborhood is try to have common areas. People still have some private space outside, but not the giant lots that we have now, and making more efficient space. In the city core. The city is open to this. You wouldn't think it because they're not usually progressive thinkers down there at City Hall, but we have some young planners. We were talking about that earlier. Some young people have replaced some older thoughts down at City Hall. So they're revising the code right now. Literally right now, there's meetings going on this week that you can go and raise your fist and say, here's what I see. But density is a big part of that conversation, and we need to revise our codes that would allow me to put 2 houses on 1 lot or 3 houses on 2 lots, or how do we kind of make more efficient use, but not ruin the neighborhood or ruin the character of it.
And then my other question was related to duplexes for the for-profit builders. Have you considered, when you get a vacant lot, of doing duplexes? Because there is a market for it, but we don't have it.
So we have, when we started our company, we started with attached homes. So there's I say that for a reason though, because when you're in a for sale market, right, if you're building an income property, a duplex is fine. But if you want to sell it, then right now you have to rezone your lot, and you have to build on the lot line, right? And in Oklahoma, until recently, people were not really open to that idea because we had so much land. Building a duplex or a townhome on a single lot was not even heard of. It was also looked down upon. You can't afford a single family, so you live in an attached home, right? So I think some of that is coming because land is expensive to the gentleman over there, especially infill development. So you have a lot more people that are looking at how can we use our land more efficiently. It's just been a mindset in our area. I think that people we've been fortunate to not have to think about attached homes until recently because of the cost of homes and land. But our code will help that a lot, and hopefully people will be more intentional. The other thing in our code, in other places where they have attached homes, you have alleys that are available and accessible. We really don't have that in Oklahoma City, especially in the core. And so that is also being looked at in the code revision of how we can open alleys back up so that we don't have to worry about garages across the front or people trying to park on the street, and we can access homes from the back. But you would be surprised that there are a lot of people that have the same feeling, and I've been working on it for quite some time, and you'll see more of it, especially as land becomes more and more expensive. But hopefully the code revision will help a lot. But they have been more open to it in the core, and they have an overlay right now where it makes it a little bit easier to go through, where you don't have to do a full spud or a PUD if you're trying to do 2 on a lot and some other things. So
Yeah, we don't build in the core, but we've seen success with it when it's part of the master plan up front. It's harder to go back and retrofit it for sure. There's 2 things you can't get everybody to agree on anything, but there's 2 things everybody agrees on. 1, there needs to be more affordable housing, and 2, it shouldn't be next to me. Okay, everybody agrees on those 2 things, and so when it's part of, yeah, that's what everybody says until they build something next to it, and they're like, wait, I had this beautiful view. So there's when it's part of a master plan and it's planned out and people understand the concept of all of it, it's a lot smoother and it's more well received than going back into a development and retrofitting it after the fact.
and I'm going to get on my soapbox for a moment, not the same one, but to your point, when white flight happened, all of that went away, right? So when you go back and look at traditional neighborhoods before white flight, you had smaller apartments. You had 8 plexes, 12 plexes. You had duplexes. You had a triplex. You went into a 1,000 square foot home, 1,500, up to 2,000 back then, right? So you had a fabric of a neighborhood that was mixed income. And so people could stay in their same neighborhood as their family grew, as they got another job, as they retired, and they wanted to go back to a smaller footprint, right? We were just in Atlanta last week looking at a master plan development similar to what you're discussing, and they went back to that fabric. And it's amazing how you can use land efficiently and well, and also have a mixed income neighborhood and what it can do for an area. And so we don't build in the suburbs. It's not our business model. But even coming back to Oklahoma City, I hope more developers, as land becomes more scarce, are forced to that place because it helps all of us, right? It gives us the affordable piece. It makes people not have to move across the state or the city to move into a different size house. They can stay with their neighbors. Their kids can grow up in the same neighborhood, and they can retire in the same neighborhood. So hopefully, to my suburban spec builders, that is forced on people moving forward because of our lack of land.
Yeah, I really like that because I know personally, my husband and I would like more space. We're both working from home. He's got a ton of stuff. But if we want to stay in our, it's just not really an option to stay in our neighborhood because all the houses are about the same size. So that would be nice if we had that mix.
Well, I love that vision, and next year you should have an appraiser on this panel. We can get real crazy. Okay.
Yeah. Noted.
Okay, Vanessa, did you have a question? Were you pointing to somebody?
Talked about it, about the scarcity and the pricing of land, and I don't know if it's totally encompassed, but it begs to say that yes, there's the price of land is high and there's a scarcity factor in it rising, correct? Like, price of land.
Are you talking about infill or out in the land period? Well, yes, I think we have been fortunate, right? Especially in Oklahoma for a long time that land was an afterthought. It was always available, and we're not in that position anymore. Also, the way that people live has changed. Before, people didn't want to live close to downtown. They weren't really worried about accessibility to downtown. So, especially in the core, that's driven prices to an unreal place, right? And some people have benefited from that, and it's still selling because we need the housing. But I think there's some speculation out there still, but right now I think we're in a place where we do have units that we need, we're in desperate need of, and so it will be interesting to see in the next couple of years as we try to build enough units for the housing needs that we have, what that land adjustment looks like. So, yeah.
And I'm guessing for Jerry, that's probably why you guys say, we'll build on your land. Like, go find it and then call us.
Yeah, we do some help with finding land and locating it, depending on where they want to build, where they want to live. There's half a dozen different websites that we use and pass off to our clients. But yeah, I mean, we've seen land. I mean, in doing this for 10 plus years, I've seen lots where I was looking at a lot with a client, drug his feet. When we looked at it, it was like 60,000. Came back 2 months later, and I'm gonna say the developer, but it's really the guy that owned the land. I mean, all he did was put a road in. Everything other than that, it was just raw land that was subdivided into 5 acres. But he upped it by 110,000 per 5 acres in 2 months. And we tried to argue it, and he said, people still buying. That's all he said. It was like, oh, okay, well, let's go look somewhere else. But I'm seeing that everywhere. I mean, really.
Yeah, you've got, rural and urban both. And urban, you've got people wanting to move back to the core because there's reasons to move back to the core now. It's fun. The restaurants are, all this and that. So that's put pressure on it. But then in the rural areas, there's also been the marijuana industry, which frankly has bought a lot of land, which has, driven those prices up as well. So it's interesting times.
Yes.
Are any of you involved in or know of opportunity with mixed housing zones or maybe any type of developments that are coming that'll offer homes under 200,000?
That'll be me. So I have 3 homes here. Pick up the sheet here in Capitol View. My
Nice flyer.
favorite. Thank you. I know it's not color, but we're nonprofit, so we don't spend money on stuff like that. We just don't. And then in the Pocket neighborhood, we're doing a mix. It's a mixed income. We think that's the strongest neighborhoods is to have mixed income. So we've got homes from 600 square feet. I have 2 homes that are 607 square feet that I call the doll houses that I'll start working on in August, up to 1,600 square feet. And then we have on the perimeter of that Pocket neighborhood live-work situations. So again, very, very flexible housing, a studio at the bottom, living area on top. So I think that I'm going to schlep over to the Capitol and start hitting up some lobbyists. Those are going to be the kind of people, that would enjoy that. But also just a lot of us here in this room that do a lot of work from home and could have that flexible space. But we're always after a mix of affordable meaning workforce, meaning people who can afford to buy a home and make those payments, and the market rate, because we just think that's the strongest neighborhood.
And if you get us a color copy of the flyer, we can email it out. We can also email out a black and white one, but I'm sure that's something staff can help us with.
Amika, I think for our for-profit businesses, I think it's really difficult to get in that number anymore because of land and just all the other pricing. We built the last house that we built around $200,000. It was actually $217,000. Cost me $300,000 right now to build. So it's just between land and just cost. So I think it will be really difficult to get back to that space unless there are programs like home funds and federal subsidies that help nonprofits to build them. So
these 3 homes I will spend about $230,000 to build. They'll sell for under each. They'll sell for under $200,000 because of what we can do. But it's just.
And it's because she's really good at her job of losing money.
Very good at my job at losing money.
Yes, Doug.
Attachment to affordable housing, like they have to be ghetto or they have to be in these hood neighborhoods or whatever, because you do realize, like, I work affordable housing and our biggest demographic aspirers are affordable housing people. And so it's just really sad that we're at this place because these changes are really cutting a lot of homeowners out. They're never going to be able to afford it.
And I can't cut anything. We've talked about it. Why would I not have quartz countertops?
Right.
Formica it's all now pretty comparable. Granite. Nobody wants to work in Formica. You can't find a carpenter that wants to work in Formica. Nobody wants that when they walk in their home. The kitchen's the focal point when you walk in. So I'm not going to compromise on, oh yeah, I saved $200 or something. So we still build the same quality house. It's just that it's, and I'm labeled affordable housing, like that's something terrible when they're, Jessica knows the houses that we build. They're absolutely gorgeous, and they'll stand up to anyone's house. It's just the demographic that we're serving.
Bill, after what we learned yesterday, because we had a deal with the city, and so this came to me last night, is like, as they look for multi-use and they try to give people incentives to build that way, do you feel like there is gonna be a lack of resources, like such as utilities, like water and electric in these areas, if they start to stack these up higher and have more people living in a given area? Like, is that a thing? Is that like me thinking things last night?
No, you're not overthinking it. No. So if you think about the growth that we've had in the suburban areas, right? All of us are paying property taxes, but we're absorbing that new infrastructure. And so what's happening in the core, we have not had our infrastructure fixed. So the only way it's getting fixed in the core is if there's an emergency. So if a sewer line collapses, they come out. And so you will see some burden on there, but unfortunately they're passing it on to us, which also makes it not affordable for us, right? So in those code reforms, they want the builder or the developer to start paying for some of that, which is going to be reflected in the price, unfortunately. Because we have a lot right now that we like to put 4 individual homes on, and then they told me how much I would have to pay to run sewer. And I was like, oh, I guess we're not doing that right now, right? So that's a great question, but that cost is being passed on to the builder or developer right now.
Yeah, and if you think about it, it's more efficient to have more units together than a half-acre lot that we've got to run a line, to the big house that's, 200 feet off the road and stuff like that.
Well, it makes sense. It's 1 acre regardless if there's one house there or there's 100 houses there.
Right.
It's still the same amount.
But it's true. I mean, we've got annexation both in Tulsa, that's 197.7 square miles, Oklahoma City, that's 650 square miles. They annexed everything on, God's earth back in the 1960s, and it wasn't great stuff. The infrastructure was not up to city standards. So then to maintain this huge city, and Oklahoma City, I don't know what it is now, used to be, the 3rd largest city in the world, land mass-wise. Is it 4th now? Yeah. To just maintain all of that, she's right. I mean, the inner core, I got a sidewalk in front of my house that had been missing, in Lincoln Terrace for 20 years. They finally got a sidewalk in. The sidewalks are horrible in that neighborhood. Capitol View doesn't have sidewalks at all. You want to go walking in Capitol View in this neighborhood? Drive around. There's no sidewalks. So the infrastructure is we're billions of dollars behind.
Do you feel like this is a great thing with the zoning? Are you guys happy as developers? Are you happy to see this?
Yes.
It was expensive, and your neighbors, because as he said, everything is cool and fun until they want to move next door to you. And so to put in, well, it's not really, and affordable is a tricky word. Right? Because what's affordable for you, what's affordable for me, what's affordable for him is different. And also based on where you live and how much money you make, affordable, and also using low income. And so there's words that people use that are triggering for people, unfortunately, right? So now an affordable house is $250,000. But if you say I'm building affordable housing, then the person next door to the empty lot that you're building on, it's a triggering word for them. So I'm happy about the code reform because it takes a lot as an infill builder for me to rezone a 50 by 140 lot. It's expensive. It takes a lot of time. They can still turn it down. I have to reapply and they can still turn it down again. And then you still have neighbors that will fight with you. Some things are not appropriate for some streets. I'm completely okay with that. I agree with that. But when there's an appropriate product, you still get pushback. So in the code reform, it will be great because they're doing that work. It's going to take a long time, but they're doing the work now to try to figure out appropriate uses of land. So people don't have to go through that. You don't have to fight with people, because most of the time, even people that are against a little density, after it's built, they're like, oh, that's nice. I didn't know that's what you were building. Even though you had color copies, as we go back to color copies, you have renderings done, and they just don't believe it, right? So I think the code reform will help a lot in that sense. But again, it's the words that we use that have been used in an inappropriate way for so long that are triggering to people. But if you take a poll, if we had a secret poll in the room of what people could actually afford and feel comfortable with, it's considered affordable now, right? And so I think that's the other thing that we have to get over as a society, that we have to get over what words people are using, and we could have a lot better interaction in neighborhoods.
So Doug had a question.
And this kind of goes along with that. Help me to understand the line between investment affordable housing, however you want to do that, and gentrification? Because Cheryl, when you introduced yourself, you talked about the houses you were building. I think it was Class and Tenpan, where now there's other builders coming in, and I know this isn't what you intended, but what I hear is the people that were living there probably can no longer afford the houses that are being built there. So how do you guys walk that balance?
Well, the people that are living there have houses that raised in value. So if there's, let's take Classen's North Highland. You guys all know where the Wall Court building is at 13th and Stiles. We've all driven by it all of our lives, and it's finally, finally back to life. That little neighborhood was so rough. When I worked at the Senate, I wouldn't ride my bike through there. We took that neighborhood, and in 2 years with the city, with the improvements to streets, to sidewalks, to a task force on drugs, to public works, lighting, and infill, the home values raised 300% in 2 years. So you can say, well, that's gentrification. Well, it only brought those house values to where they should have been. That's how depressed the house values were to begin with. So some of these neighborhoods, and I would say Tenpen, among them, are just getting to where they need to be. It's not, yes, they rose quickly and all of that, but the only people that could possibly be pushed out are not homeowners. What goes up as it goes up everywhere is rent. And so there is a very fine line, and gentrification is a word that upsets people, and I deal with that, all the time. But we're not displacing anyone by improving a neighborhood. We're old adage, but rising tide lifts all boats. It really does. And what it's causing to happen, even as we speak here, is some out-of-state landlords are having to improve, their places. So every time I start a new house, it's always amazing to me. I start waiting for the rehabs to start, because it sparks some joy. It sparks, some pride. And this neighborhood has a lot of that and a lot of hardworking people, and I just love them. And they have worked their butts off to try to get everyone's values up. So that doesn't push anyone out. That's getting values up to where, they need to be comparable to neighborhoods surrounding them.
The other thing that I would say to that point, as a person that works in similar neighborhoods to Cheryl, is that we have a responsibility also to our neighbors that we work in their neighborhoods to help them and to educate them. So if you decide that you want to sell your home, please come talk to me first, right? And I can point you to one of you in the room that can give them a real appraisal of their home, and so that they can get what they need for it and what they should get for it. Don't let anybody that is calling your phone or send you a postcard, do not sell your house to them. I think also part of that being a good neighbor is when your painter is there, he can help them paint something next door. When your HVAC person is there, their electrician, that they can help them too. And so I think that's the other part of the responsibility that we have when we work in neighborhoods, when we're doing infill, is being a good neighbor. Also joining your neighborhood association so people understand, like especially when you work in neighborhoods that have older people in them, how do they freeze their property taxes? Because $100 a year may not feel like anything to us, but to your neighbor, it may be a lot, right, when they're on a fixed income. So are they filling out that form every February, or have they filled it out so they've locked that in? Have they done their homestead? Some of those things, and even the city has programs that help people that are homeowners to fix up their homes, right? So do you have those applications readily available and helping people fill them out and turn those in? So I think part of that when you work in neighborhoods that, because gentrification is another triggering word that means something different to everyone. It's not, the definition of it is not a bad thing. It's how people do it and how they work in neighborhoods that are already established. And so when you're a good neighbor, then you do help everyone in the neighborhood, right? Because you are giving a gift to someone to say that if you've been in your house for the last 40 years, you finally paid it off, or you still owe a small amount, and someone comes by and says, I'm gonna give you $40,000 for your house, but now it should be worth $120,000. You might not necessarily wanna sell it, but we gain wealth in this country through property, and we pass it on. So when you pass it on to your daughter, your grandson, now it's worth $120,000 for them, right? So those are the things that I feel like are our responsibility when we work in those places, that we pass on to our neighbor to help them.
Well, and I know we're at time, but amen to the neighborhood, and that's what we're all about. We're not housing developers, we're neighborhood developers. but just in this neighborhood alone, the city has removed over 700 hazardous trees. And you think, well, that's not that big a deal. It is that big a deal to take down trees that are threatening people's roofs, that are ugly, and they've planted hundreds more. And I love going on the tree plantings because I really don't have to plant a tree. They just have really cute firefighters that go dig the hole. And I just, oh, yeah. And then I'm just kind of like, I get the job of tying the stake to the tree or something. But those kinds of things are the kinds of things that many of our urban neighborhoods did not enjoy. Trees. Think about the value of trees, and not just from energy efficiency, but from aesthetics and all the way down. So it's all of that bring the quality to the neighborhood.
Okay. Yes, Juan?
Cheryl, a minute ago you said something, I'm not saying right? You were talking about the zip code or like a neighborhood appreciating 300%, with your rehabbing. And I don't know if this is like tracked, but like if we can expect, 300% appreciation in a zip code in a neighborhood, like how much can we expect taxes to be increased in that neighborhood?
Well, the houses I built in
Can I
Classens, North
repeat
Highland.
his question real quick?
Do what?
I just want to repeat his question, make sure everybody heard it and that the recording did. So you're asking for those neighborhoods where they're seeing the 300% appreciation, what kind of effect will that have on their property taxes?
The houses I built, they were vacant lots that were not on the tax rolls. So I don't know. That's an assessor question. I don't know. Yes, values are going to go up. That means property taxes are going to go up. But, it's just, she said, we've got to educate homeowners, which we've done with numerous, I can't tell you how many church basements I've been in, doing these presentations on, your homestead, make sure that you're taking advantage of every avenue you can. If that's a downside, then it's a downside. But my goodness, here's a neighborhood that was in blight. Crime has gone down. You can ask Jessica in Classen 10 Pen how crime has gone down. When you start bringing more homeowners in instead of renters, and people who don't care about their rent houses. I'm a person that cares. I've got just a few, but I'm, on everything. But so many times it's out of state, people that own these that don't take care of them, and they just turn into blight, and things fall in around them. So, I'll defend, building homes on lots that were covered in trash and Walmart bags. And helping everyone in the neighborhood get something better and more valuable for what they've put their life into that home, into that neighborhood to pass on.
There's also a fixed amount. There's a percentage, and my brain doesn't work as well as it used to. 5%. Your property taxes can only go up 5% a year. And so if a home is built next to you and it sells for $400,000 and they're assessed at that on their home, your taxes in one given year can only go up 5%. But again, like Cheryl said, it goes back to educating your neighbors, because even that fact, a lot of people don't know and realize, and their fear of their property taxes going up significantly is a big fear for a lot of people.
In hindsight, that the decrease in the increase in property taxes is great for the schools, right? But hindsight, when you have these areas that are lower income and lower property values, therefore lower property taxes, the schools suffer from that because they're not getting the amount that they ultimately should. So the values going up, and that cap being 3 to 5%, you're kind of hurting those schools as well, because they're not getting that value that they ultimately really should without that percentage. So it's kind of tough.
It's a minimal amount though, if it's gonna go with the values and go up that much.
Maybe like
overweight.
like $20 a year. I know in my neighborhood that's what I've seen. So when I bought my house for $75,000, it's worth $140,000 today. It was around $650 for property taxes, and now I'm at like $790. So it hasn't gotten too bad in the last 12 years.
Mine goes at 5%. I think we have time for one more question, if anybody has one. If not, okay. Panelists, any final word you want to share?
I want to thank these folks for what a bunch of wonderful and smart people.
Absolutely.
You guys. I'm always blown away by how little I know until I get stuff like this. Thank you all for that. It's great.
Yes. Thank you, Steve. Anybody else have any last thing they want to share?
Did they go over their price points? Like
No.
what price point you're in, so that we just know if you have any clients?
Well, Steve said his just went down a little bit, right?
Yeah, they went from $9.95 to $9.91.
Two 65, 270 to up to 600,000. Yeah, our average sales price is 289.
On our spec houses, we're right at 375 to 450. And then on customs, it's really whatever our client needs or wants.
We're under a hair under 200, 180 to probably 220, starting on the new ones.
I'm going to say numbers, but they don't include land, just to, just to say that up front. We're like all inclusive, like our smallest homes are around 1,000 square feet with, like the one I talked about earlier with the mother-in-law house. I mean, she still had quartz countertops and plank tile flooring. I mean, beautiful house. I mean, I'll have stone, stucco, and brick on the outside. It's under 200, all in except for the land, but she didn't need land. It was on land that her son owned. And then we're going up to probably about $1 million on customs, from 200 to $1 million, I'd say. And that's everything but the land. So, and that land can fluctuate all over the place.
Okay. And Jerry, I thought your company had something kind of special with Realtor Commission, so I text your wife to confirm. You want to share when the commission gets paid out to agents?
Yeah, and I failed to mention that earlier. We do a 3% commission. We never try to talk you guys out of taking less. When we collect the draw for the foundation and process it, basically means getting it at the bank, we're going to cut you guys a check for the 3% at that point in time, not at the end when the house is done.
Because I think a lot of us have been there where we were waiting for construction to finish before we got paid. So I think that's a neat thing. Sherry, did you have a question?
Yeah, Jerry, you want to talk about your design process and how you guys really collaborate with your customers?
Yeah.
Everything from the land, you help them pick it, to how you guys design your homes?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And thank you. I'll just kind of run through everything, but it'll be fairly quickly. So if you guys have any more detailed questions, I'm more happy to go into that. So somebody comes in, they talk to me about what they want to build. We do a feasibility, whether they own land or not. And basically that's like, okay, this is your budget, this is what you want. Does it match? Is it a square peg and a round hole or a round peg and a round hole? And then if we're close, then it's a little bit easier if we're close. One of the things I'll do is I'll go out and look at land. I have to make sure that they have lending in place. Then we go to a design meeting where we design everything from scratch. Half the people we build for, they have nothing on paper. They have it all in their head, and they say, this is what I want, and they literally describe it. And we go to our architect. We don't charge anything extra for the plans. We don't have any fees. I mean, any extra fees, like if I got to touch the plans 20 times, no extra cost. Usually that process takes about 6 weeks to nail down to get it all completely done. We come back with a binder with the plans. So from design meeting to the first review is about 2 weeks, where we have a custom set of plans and 20 pages of details where everything's priced out, line by line. We have line items for everything, well, septic, dirt work, lighting, like you name it. We go through all of that in that review meeting, and typically people want to change some stuff about the house. I would say 9 out of 10 times we're about 80% there on the house plans. We just need to tweak some stuff. But again, if somebody says, you know what, I just changed my mind, I want something different, fine, we'll go back to the drawing board, no problem. They're going to take that binder home with the plans. If they see some stuff on the plans that they want to change, they typically will call us and say, hey, look, or they'll make a copy of it and draw on it and then send us a picture. And then we will pass that on back to our architect and have him make those tweaks. Over the next 10 to 14 days, while we're waiting on plans to come back, the clients actually take that binder home and they make those tough decisions about what they want to keep in there and what they don't. Because if you, for example, if if a client said, look, I want some rustic wood beams on my ceilings. If the wood beams on the ceilings were $2,000, it may make sense. Yeah, let's do it all day. If they're $5,000, they may back up a little bit. So what happens is things on the priority list shift on what they want based on what they cost. A lot of times we are also setting the houses up for things that they want to do later, but they can't afford it now. Like when I built my house 9 years ago, I was $70,000 over budget. I had a certain number I had to hit. Another stupid joke, my dollar stretcher broke. But the way I did that, and actually a lot of our clients do this very similarly, I wanted to build an outdoor kitchen, but for $20,000, I was like, man, look, I got to back that out. But I want to do it easy. I want to do it later. So how can we make that easy for me, and how do we make those things easy for our clients? So what we did is we roughed in plumbing, electric, and gas. I could easily build out that kitchen at a later date. A lot of stuff we also do is we take out generators. A lot of clients will choose to take the generator out, but they still want the house wired for it. Like 220 outlets for hot tubs, or 220 outlets in the garages if they're going to use it as a workshop. Or there's, I mean, you can kind of, the list is fairly endless. The beams on the ceiling, for example, those can be pulled out. They're cosmetic. You can put them up later. Hire a carpenter to come in and put them up, and then a painter to finish them. That was another thing I did, is I took out $10,000 of built-in cabinets in my office. 3 years later, I paid cash to put them in. They look like they've been there since day one. So once those decisions are made and we come to a final dollar, and the client is finished with the house part and they're finished with their budget part, we write the contract. At that point, everything goes to the bank. The bank usually takes a month or so to order an appraisal, order title work, and get that back so they can close on a construction loan. We as a builder, we don't carry a construction loan on anybody. That's the client's responsibility, because a lot of times the clients are also buying land with the construction loan. So it's theirs. We're basically just a hired guest to do a service on their property. And then once they close on the construction loan, that gives us the green light to start building. Because in the meantime, between the time we write the contract and the construction loan closes, they're going and picking out appliances and lighting, and we have somebody on our staff that actually helps with those things, not to help make choices, but to help make the meetings go smoothly. Because our goal is to make something that can be very difficult or stressful, make it go smoothly as possible. So we want it to be a good overall experience as much as we can help with that. The other meeting is like going to the selections meeting, where you pick out flooring, countertops, cabinet types, paint colors, stain colors, what have you. All that stuff's picked then. That's all happening while we're getting permits and anything else that we need before the construction loan closes. So when the construction loan closes, we can start the construction and get them in the house as soon as possible, because it is an 8-month or maybe 9-month time for construction. And everybody wants to get in their house as fast as they can. So I think that's probably about it, as big a mouthful as that was. You're welcome.
Okay. Well, I think that's all we have. Thank you so much, panelists. Thought it was a great discussion, so I hope you guys liked it too.